guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to be covering part 2 to a video I covered about several weeks ago, which was titled, Police Officer Exposes the Truth on Domestic Situations and How Men Can Protect Themselves. And guys, as a recap, that's about the guy's police officer, mid-30s I think, and wrote in with all these very important things for guys to know to obviously protect themselves in bad situations that involve domestic issues. I got to watch what I say here on YouTube, but you get my point. And that video did very well, and he had a lot of very useful information. And during that video, I had a lot of questions from about various things, as well as plenty of you guys in the comments section. So he's writing in a very large part 2 here, responding to all those questions you guys had that I had, and giving examples of scenarios that he had in his experience in police work, as well as adding more things to the list of things to help guys out. It's really worth your time. And let me tell you, some of his war stories, if you will, are quite interesting. But the thing is, this is very long, so this is actually going to be split up into 2 parts. So I'm doing part 2 now, and I'll do part 3 a couple hours after this is published. So definitely a good one and worth your time. You will all walk away a little smart, a little educated after this, listening to part 2 and 3. But real quick before I get into this, a little update on the hurricane. A lot of you guys have been great, reaching out to see how I'm doing here days in advance before this went down, in the comment section of videos, emails, Instagram. Today is Thursday, October 10th. The hurricane is come and gone, and everything. My community, we're safe. We're good to go. We really lucked out. Everybody that lives down here. All we had was a lot of strong wind, not even a flicker in the power, so I was ready, but you know what, lucked out. But I may not be lucky next time, so certainly am prepared for these types of things. But again, thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it. A lot of people weren't so lucky, particularly in the western part of the state, and I wish you guys all the best in getting things back together. So anyhow, on to part 2. He says here, hello SSM. Thanks for doing my story so quickly. Didn't expect you to get to it for a while. I want to get back to you sooner, but having 2 5-year-old kids, a newborn, and working night shifts tends to wear you down pretty fast. Bro, I can imagine. Holy cow. Also, as much as I appreciate the respect, you don't have to call me sir or officer. You got 10 years on me, so I'll reserve the title for you, sir. But in all seriousness, because of the good work you do, just call me Tim is fine. Okay, Tim, but I'm still going to probably call you sir or officer because I respect you very much. I want to take you up on your offer to follow up on the original video. I watched the video a few times to make sure I did not miss anything, then writing back. Don't worry about playing it from the devil's advocate side. I welcome those kinds of questions. It makes for a better discussion and, more importantly, a better learning experience for all of us. I did some research and found some information I thought might be helpful to the guys. I also want to get some extra info for the community, some based on my personal experiences and some that I looked into. Also, I have some extra tips on how to handle domestic situations further than what I originally wrote in. On top of that, I wanted to follow up with the original list that I gave you. I wrote the original email about 3 o'clock in the morning when I had some downtime, and I was pretty tired. If anything was too vague or unclear, you guys have my apologies. The big question you had seemed to be about the police body camera and how it stores video. Yes, I was very curious about that. I spoke with my sergeant and went over our technicalities over body cameras. Did a little research into other aspects to hopefully answer your questions. There are a lot of different types of body cameras out there. The 2 brands I've experienced with are Axon and WatchGuard. My department, along with the other departments in my area, all use Axon. That's spelled A-X-O-N. For the most part, the camera is always on and running. There is a sleep mode which turns the camera off to save the battery life. However, that has to be done manually by the officer. During any form of police activity, the officer has to activate their body camera. Okay, you heard that. They have to do it. This includes traffic stops, any calls for service, and anything that the officer happens to catch while on duty. It protects the officer and the department for any false claims and most liability cases. It depends on the system being used, but the camera will automatically upload the video once it's placed on the docking station, or will automatically upload once it connects to the Wi-Fi at the station. There is no little chip. The camera is one big storage unit. Axon has to be docked, and WatchGuard uploads to the cloud the second the officer pulls into the station. Okay, so I guess that's routine procedure. The officers do have access to the video, and so do the supervisors, sergeants, lieutenants, chiefs, etc. It's usually the officer that has to label the incident that occurred with a report number, whether it's a traffic stop, misdemeanor, or felony. Depending on the nature of the activity, it can be retained for 90 days up to 3 years for basic incidents. For example, traffic stops that result in a warning or a ticket can be retained for only 90 days unless a complaint is filed. That video can be flagged for further review by the supervisor and extended. Anything like a misdemeanor arrest or felony arrest can be retained for as long as needed. At the very least, until the court has the final ruling, which can take up to 7 to 10 years maximum. Wow, I did not know this. An example of this would be a drunk driving arrest. I had several videos retained for anywhere from 3 to 5 years because the attorneys in those situations kept filing a continuance stating that they were not ready to proceed. Long story short, the attorneys were hoping I didn't show up for court in order to get the case dismissed. I made sure to never miss court, especially for drunk drivers. Either way, the point of all this is that body camera footage can be retained for a number of years as long as it gets flagged to be retained. Okay, I told you guys you're going to walk out of here smarter, more knowledgeable about these things. Also, to answer your question about dirty cops and deleting the camera footage, it's not possible for the individual officer or direct supervisor to delete the video. The footage is stored on a cloud-based system. This allows for review and retention. However, it's extremely difficult to delete anything completely from the cloud storage, at least from anyone in the department. If it was found to be deleted before the maximum 90-day period, it can be recovered through the cloud or the providing company. The providing company is responsible for deleting the videos in order to maintain space and bandwidth. It can also be traced back to who logged in last, who viewed the footage, and anyone who attempted to delete it. This would typically warrant an investigation, such as a state and district attorney's office. You can do a Freedom of Information Act request in order to get the footage. However, some departments can refuse the FOIA request from the civilian end. It's better to have your attorney file the request because they can cite the specific reason needed for the body camera footage. In other words, let your attorney do the work for you. Always listen to your lawyer. Amen. But this is coming from a cop. Also, as a side note, body camera video is a matter of public record. Some officers have purchased their own individual cameras and had them used on duty. If this is the case, the video from that camera becomes property of the police department and is subject to FOIA requests. Since we're on the topic of recordings, I want to follow up on the question you had whether you are allowed to record or not. You are always allowed to record in any public space, and you are especially allowed to record on your own private property. Okay, so he's talking about now not the cops recording, but an individual recording things if a situation arises, whatever that may be. The Supreme Court has established this. The only preventive measures, such as in a mutual party consent states, is that you cannot distribute the video, posting it online, or may not be able to use it during civil proceedings. Laws vary from state to state, but you may have to post signs saying that the entire premises is under surveillance. Again, depending where you live. 1 or 2 signs may satisfy the requirement. However, you'll have to look it up by your state laws. Like I said before, nothing keeps you from protecting yourself in the moment. You can set up an indoor security system in order to protect yourself. If you're renting or have a homeowners insurance association, HOA, make sure you check with your landlord or HOA representative before doing this. I spoke to some apartment complex landlords in my area, and all of them have said that they have no problem letting tenants put in their own security system. They advise that it's an additional measure of security to help protect their own property and their tenants. However, some may not be okay with it, so just ask to find out. That all being said, if it's in your own home, you can do what you want in terms of security. You can place cameras inside whatever room you feel that you need to. My advice would be to put one in every room in the house. Also, when it comes to mutual party consent states, distributing the video means you cannot post it online or use it in any way to defame her. You cannot send it to her work or mutual friends, but you can send it to your family members and your friends. This will keep people on your side, and it will help you control the narrative. Again, how many times have I said you got to control the narrative, guys, because all it takes is some disgruntled, girlfriend, former girlfriend or wife, or just one that's done you wrong, and she doesn't want to have to take blame for anything, and she can make up a bunch of shit. But now you got proof, and you got to tell people. Get ahead of them. Now listen to this little story here he's going to share in his experience. This will raise some eyebrows with regards to having security in your house. I remember one specific call where a guy's video camera system saved his ass. We got a call from a quote-unquote battered wife who claimed that her husband had punched her repeatedly in the face. She claimed that she was hiding in the upstairs bedroom, that she was afraid of her husband was going to off her, and that she needed an ambulance. Myself and two other officers arrived on the scene, one female officer and one male officer, and we immediately observed the husband at the front door. He waved at us and invited us into the house, with a smile on his face. If I was a cop, I'd be like, what's this guy smiling about? Is he drugged? This threw me off a bit. I was only doing the job for about 2 years at the time, and it was not something I was used to seeing on these calls. When we walked inside the house, I started talking to the husband. Before I could finish my first sentence, the wife came running around the corner, screaming and crying. She yelled that he had punched her numerous times, and she did have some bruises to prove it. She also looked like she had been dragged by her hair, like she'd been in a fight. She told us that her husband had been doing that towards her for several months. She also told us that she was divorcing him because he had cheated on her with several other women. It sounds pretty cut and dry, but there were several things that were off about the whole situation. Number one, the bruises didn't look like they came from a fist. They looked triangular in shape. I'm an MMA guy, and I know what a punch looks like in the face. I've seen people hit so hard that they have imprints of fists or fingers on whatever parts were hit. Her bruises did not come close to that shape. Number two, the husband was chuckling the entire time the wife was sobbing through her story. This was very odd behavior given the call we received. In my experience at the time, the guy is usually worried or angry at the situation, never laughing in any way. 3. The wife came out from around the corner on the main level of the house. We were told she was locked in a bedroom upstairs. We got to the house pretty quickly, and based on the info from the call and the size of the house, a mansion-like house, there was no way she got downstairs that fast. See, these are things that an experienced officer with common sense would connect the dots with. I went to move the wife out of the view of the husband and attempted to calm her down. I then heard the female officer tell the husband to get his hands behind his back. I looked over and saw her approaching the husband with her handcuffs in her hand. My first thought was, oh shit, this is not going to end well. I told the female officer to back up and wait with the wife while I spoke to the husband. She was not happy with me jumping in, but I was the primary officer, and it was my patrol zone for the day, so I was responsible for writing the report. Well, gentlemen, as you're about to see, thank God we had this experienced officer, or more experienced officer than her, being the one in charge. I spoke to the husband and told him that while we were called there, I asked him what had happened, and he continued to laugh. The husband told me that he was divorcing his wife due to her cheating with a male coworker. He said he filed for divorce earlier in the month and had served her at work that morning. He also told me that she injured herself, called the police, said that he was going to end up in jail, and that she would get everything from him. I asked the husband how she injured herself, and he said, I can show you. He took me to his home office, pulled up his laptop, and showed me numerous security cameras throughout his house. He asked if I wanted to see and hear the video, and I said I would. Husband showed me the video, and I saw the following. The wife entered the house screaming for the husband to come out and talk to her. As soon as he walked out of his office, she got in his face yelling at him, stating, "How could you embarrass me like that? I can get fired because of you." He stood there while she yelled at him for several minutes. Then he said, "Okay, you want to see how this goes?" She then walks away. He pulled up a camera in the bathroom of the house. Yes, he had a camera in the bathroom. Man, this guy was not taking any chances. The wife entered the bathroom and began banging her forehead and the right side of her face onto the counter of the sink. Holy shit. This is psycho. And determined. She hit herself quite a few times in the forehead, 2 times in the side of the face. She was also observed pulling her own hair so hard that several strands were ripped out. The wife then called the police, saying the husband struck her multiple times in the face and she needed the police. There you go, guys. Now, some people are going to say this is bullshit. You can expect that, but I don't think our guy here is making this up. No way, shape, or form do I think this guy's making this up. Think about it. You make crazy nut jobs are out there. They'll do anything to make their guy get dragged off to prison and win the divorce. Hell hath no fury. So, the husband pulled up a third video of him in their bedroom. He was there the entire time the wife was in the bathroom hitting herself. She marches in the bedroom, gets in his face, and points to hers and states, "You're fucked." The husband got up, walked to his office, and stayed there until he noticed that the police outside. After I reviewed the video, making sure the date was correct, and going over the times of the video, I asked the husband why he didn't call to let us know the wife was BSing us. He told me he didn't have to call because it would be he said, she said situation. He'll just let her act crazy, and he'll show us the video when we got there. While I was speaking with the husband, my sergeant arrived on the scene and asked what was going on. Before I could explain, the female officer told the sergeant that the husband needed to be arrested. She told him that she had visible injuries on the wife and that the husband had clearly struck her. My sergeant asked me why the husband was not in handcuffs yet, and I asked him to come into the office. I asked the husband if he would be willing to show my sergeant the same videos, and he agreed. Well, obviously. My sergeant watched the videos and told me to get a copy. I asked my husband for a copy, and he gave me a USB drive with all the video footage. I asked my sergeant what we could do in this situation, and he said to lock up the wife for filing a false police report, which is a, wait for it, felony. I placed the wife into handcuffs and brought her to the station. I can only imagine the screaming and yelling and tantrums that was going on in that moment. And I want to know, what was the look in the female officer's face when you did this? What was the look in the female officer's face when you said, "By the way, rookie, here's what really was going on, so don't be so quick to judge the guy"? The husband was more than willing to sign a complaint, even though we could have signed it on his behalf of the felony. Unfortunately, when the wife went to court for the felony, she was given a deal from the state's attorney and pled guilty of misdemeanor for disorderly conduct and domestic related. The only reason this happened is because the husband agreed to the deal. Why the hell did she get a deal? Maybe, I don't know, I'm speculating here, but husband was like, okay, you can get a deal here, but our divorce is going to go down this path now. I don't know. Speculating. This goes to show you guys a good video can save your life in the long run. It kept the husband out of jail and showed the wife for the psycho whack job that she is. This is why I can't say enough to make sure you have the cameras up and running to protect yourself. This also goes to show that having a calm presence helps. Granted, the husband was a bit goofy. However, he did not freak out or get aggressive or become belligerent when we showed up. He knew what we had, and he knew what he had, and was also very calm when speaking to me and the sergeant and showing me the video. That's what you got to do, guys. You got to be calm and cool and respectful. I do agree that it's easier said than done to keep your emotions in check, especially with someone who knows how to push your buttons. Yeah, right there, what he just said there. Girlfriends, wives who've been with you for a while, they know. They know exactly what it's going to take to get you going. And are going to exploit that if they're A, evil, or B, feel that it's justified. You know? And so, yeah, it's very difficult to, when anybody's yelling at you or making a claim that something against you didn't do, very hard to keep calm. However, no matter what is said, you have to keep yourself calm. The calmer, more polite that you are, the better chance you have of staying out of jail. You have a series on your channel where the three husbands team up to expose their cheating wives. Two of the three husbands had interactions with police officers and came out on top in both scenarios. Take hints from Brad and Steve Reacher. They handle their situations very well. Shout out to those guys. This also goes into the charge of filing a false police report. Some of the guys brought this up in the comments. This can be done against the wife in these type of situations. However, the he said, she said will not cut it. Filing a false police report is a felony in every state, and police can make an arrest based on evidence presented. However, the issue is that most state and district attorneys will not follow through with the charge due to the fear of discouraging women from filing genuine cases. This is a bunch of bullshit, but it's the unfortunate world that we live in. There are a few things you can do to make sure that at least the officers follow through and do something to put on further paper that she is the bad guy and you are innocent. First, after presenting evidence to the officers, state, "I'm willing to sign a complaint/press charges for her filing a false police report." Advise that your girl has wasted the police department's time and resources in order to put you in jail under false allegations. In other words, weaponizing the police department. Explain that you have a good reputation and she's using the police as a weapon to further her case in divorce court. Married guys, if the officer tries not to follow through and attempt to dismiss your request, keep trying. They will sometimes do this because they know they won't get the felony. If all else fails, see if there's a misdemeanor charge or a local ordinance citation that can be used to cement your case for when the report is written. In my state, we have a misdemeanor statute of what is called the misuse of 911. Essentially, this is an arrest for someone prank calling the police without charging them for a felony. At my department, we have it for both a misdemeanor charge and a local ordinance citation charge. If the officer declines the felony charge, advise you'll be willing to sign a complaint for a misdemeanor equivalent. If they persist, then ask if they can issue a local ordinance ticket for the misuse of 911. It does vary by state, so look yours up. This way, when the report is completed, she gets a charge and you get put in as one making the complaint. Take this to your attorney. They will love you for it. There you go. So, guys, that is the end of part 2. It's a long one, as you can see. I'm going to take a break, and then I'm going to publish part 3 in a couple hours. You guys can watch this, because like I said, the whole thing is like 20 freaking pages long, and I'm not going to do it all in one video. Statistics show my videos do better if they're in the 20-minute, 30-minute range instead of 45, 50 minutes here. But anyhow, a couple hours, part 3, and again, really good info, really interesting war stories from the police officer here, and I will see you soon.